Hello and welcome back to Outdoors with Alan. Well, today I'm going to do something that I put off for a while, and I'm going to show you how I make my mama's homemade biscuits. And the best thing about this recipe is it only takes 3 ingredients and about 15 minutes. So anybody can do it. Believe me, if I can do it, anybody can do it. So I hope you stay tuned. I'm going to go through it and actually show you the exact steps that I take. So again, thanks for joining in, and we're going to get started. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is make sure your hands are good and clean, and I've washed my hands, so everything is good and clean because I'm going to be using my hands a lot in this. So the first thing you want to do is to get all your ingredients together, and sometimes I fail at this, but believe me, it's a lot better if you get everything together, because once you're here and going, you don't want to have to stop because you'll have grease on your hands or whatever. So I guess that would be number one. Number two is to go ahead and cut your oven on, and we'll talk about the temperature here. We do it at 450 degrees, so go ahead and get your oven warming up so it'll be ready to go when your biscuits are ready. Number two is to go ahead and grease your pan. I have this pan here that I love using, and you can tell it's been used, but it's just a regular baking pan, so nothing really fancy, but go ahead and grease it up and have it ready. All right, so let's talk about the ingredients. Like I said before, it's 3 ingredients: self-rising flour, and I use buttermilk. And then for your oil, we have just switched. We started using this coconut oil this past year, and it's really been a lot better. It's made the biscuits a little bit lighter. I used to use the Crisco type of grease, oil, lard, or whatever you want to call it, but I stopped using that and started using the coconut oil. So this is a little healthier too. But you can use whatever you have. If you have Crisco, it'll still work. It'll still be good. Okay, so next let's talk about the amount of ingredients. I usually start off with 2 cups of self-rising flour, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in now. So really just a 1 cup measuring device, and I don't get this exact, to be honest with you. So that's 1, 2, I use 2.5 actually, so I just kind of look at it, eyeballing it. There's my half, so that works just fine. I will go ahead sometimes and put a little extra in here because I know I'm going to be dipping from this to when I start working the dough. So 2.5 cups of self-rising flour. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm not going to put this in next, but I'm going to go ahead and pour it, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to pour 1 cup of buttermilk. Now, to be honest with you, I've used buttermilk when I had buttermilk. If I didn't have buttermilk, I've actually used water. Not quite as good, but it will work. And I've actually used just regular milk. But buttermilk is my favorite. So like I said, I'm not going to pour this in now, but the reason I like to go ahead and get it ready is because of the next step. All right, so moving on to the coconut oil. And when I say coconut oil, it's not a liquid. It's they call it cold compressed and unrefined. So it's just like similar to the texture of Crisco. So what I do, and I really do not measure this, is I just reach in and kind of get a clump of it. Clump. I love that word, clump. So maybe 1. That's probably enough right there. Maybe a little more for good measure. Okay. So once I have that, I want to start working that in the flour. And there's a couple ways you can do that. One way is just to use your hands, and that works just fine. You start to kind of press down the flour and move it around, and just what you're trying to do is get that coconut oil kind of all mixed in your flour. I didn't say this before, but I love using this wooden bowl. It just seems to work real well. I obviously don't have to have a wooden bowl, that's no secret, but this is just I use this bowl to get the dough ready, and then afterwards I actually rinse it off and put a cloth over it and put the actual biscuits in there. So you can just use your hands. All right, so now that I have that, I'm going to take, and the liquid is, you know, you've got to play around with these ingredients. Even though I have a recipe, I don't really, you have to tweak it on each batch, it looks like. So I'll go ahead and pour the cup of buttermilk in. And in this case, I do use a fork to begin with. And that's just to kind of stir it around and get that milk all mixed in with your flour. And so the goal here is to work it in a way that you can get a dough ball that you can take and use with your hands. It's still a little doughy. Anyway, a little wet. So a wet dough ball. And that's why I take and put some extra flour, because you're going to have to be constantly kind of putting that over in there, because we're trying to get to that right consistency of wetness so that you can actually work the dough. There goes the oven, so we know that's ready, and we're not too far either. So actually that's pretty good. I didn't have to use as much this time. And so what I'm going to end up with is this, a dough ball where your hand doesn't stick to it. You can pull your hand off of it and it doesn't pull dough away with it. So once I get that like that, I'll take and I'll set the bowl aside. Now, the one thing I forgot to do is I will usually start out, I used to use all kind of different things to actually put the dough on. I had a fancy vinyl sheet. I've had a breadboard. But I've really kind of gotten to where what I like to use is just a nice cloth towel. It works fine, and then the best thing, the reason that I really kind of went to it, is that once you're finished, you can just take this right, fold it up, throw it in the laundry, and you don't have to clean off a breadboard or a plastic. So you can see here, this is what I've got. I've got it laid out here. I'm going to take the roller. I happen to have a wooden one, and I'm just going to roll them out. I mean, you saw how quick that was. It really only took maybe, if I wasn't shooting a video on it, I could literally do this process in 5 minutes. No problem. So get it kind of rolled out, maybe about a 1/2 inch thick, something like that. And then what I do, now I've got a couple ways you can do this. I've got this little wooden biscuit cutter that I got from Winston-Salem. Love using this. It works really well. It's got a thin edge on it, so it cuts into the dough and pulls out nicely. But you don't have to have that if you have a small water glass. And the thing that I like about the water glass is that it makes the biscuits just a little bit bigger. And that way I don't have to eat as many. So anyway, I'm going to use that today, because more likely you have this, you may not have this. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut these, push down in there. That's 4. That's 5 biscuits there. And then because we've already got our pan grease, I'm going to just bring it over, set it right beside here. Now, I put a picture on Instagram the other day, and I had one of my cousins tell me something, and I did not know this. And this is the first time I'm going to try it. She said that the biscuits should be touching in the pan when you bake them. I had never heard that. So anyway, if this doesn't work, then I won't call any names, but she's a good cook, so I'm sure she knows what she's talking about. So we're going to put them in here and let them touch. So that little bit, then you just go back and take and just work your your dough ball again. And you don't want to overwork your dough. I think in the beginning I did that, and that just was not good. It made made them a little tougher, I think. So you don't have to do a whole lot. And of course, the trick is to try to roll that out about the same width as you had your previous batch. You see that the dough is a little wetter this time. Usually I make around 10 to 12 biscuits with the recipe, but I think this is going to be a little less. I didn't. If you use more liquid than that cup of liquid, what you're going to find is you have to keep adding flour to get the right consistency. So you end up with more biscuits, which that's fine. So you can increase the amount of liquid you use. You can increase the amount of flour that you use. But really, you only need these 3 ingredients to really make a batch. I tell you what I'll do. I'll go ahead and use the little wooden one on this. We'll make a couple small ones, kind of for appetizer biscuits. Put those right in there. Let's see what I have. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Oh, perfect. We're going to get 10 biscuits out of this recipe. Anyway, I have to give credit where credit's due. This recipe, my mom, actually, I got the recipe. My mom, I asked her, how to make biscuits, because she used to make them every morning for my dad when they were a young couple, and so she had plenty of practice. And so I asked her. She said, "Well, I don't really have a recipe." So I took one Saturday, went down there, and got her to make a batch right in front of me. And I had to kind of stop her and kind of measure just to get a good starting point. But anyway, it's pretty easy. If I have a little dough left, I'll just pat it a little chunk of whatever, put it right on there. So there we go. We got these ready, and so we're going to pop them in the oven. As far as the timing, at 450, 10 minutes should be enough to make them golden brown. So anyway, we're going to pop them into the oven, and here we go. So we're going to put them right in here, slide them into the middle. And that's the thing I like about putting it on convection bake, is that it supposedly bakes things more evenly. So I don't know, it's kind of hard to tell really. Seems to work either way. So if you don't have a convection oven, don't worry about that. So anyway, that's how I do it, and we'll show you the results in about 10 minutes. I'm going to just real quickly give you the ingredients again, so you'll have this: two and a half cups of any kind of self-rising flour, a hunk of and what we're using is the coconut oil. Like I said, you can use Crisco, whatever brand. Crisco is really a brand. And 1 to 1.5 cups of buttermilk. Seems to work really good. So anyway, we'll be back and show you the results in less than 10 minutes. Okay, these are looking pretty good. In fact, I would say we'll spin them around one time and take a look at the bottom. I don't know why I spin it around. It's really not necessary, but just something I started doing. But I usually like to take, and be careful here, is look at the bottoms to make sure they're kind of that golden brown color. Okay, so there you go. We got them. They're kind of a nice golden brown. The bottoms have got just a little brownness, a little crispness to them. So they're pretty much ready. So we're just gonna pop them off of here, and using that same bread bowl with just a kitchen towel in it. I guess it's really called a dishcloth. I just don't like to use it when I'm putting my biscuits in it. I don't like to call it that. So, and these are hot, right out of the oven. So anyway, there you go. Mama's homemade biscuits. ready for Christmas morning. All right, well, that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video, and want to wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas. I know it's different for a lot of families this year. You're not getting together and like you used to because of this virus. But anyway, this too shall pass. Anyway, so I hope you have a great Christmas season, and I encourage you to try the biscuits, and in the comments, if you do, please let me know how they turned out for you, some things that you found, whatever. I know there are lots of ways of doing it, but to me, this works for us, and it's fast and it's easy too. So thanks again, and we'll see you on the next video.